Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the CADE Corner. My name is Jesper. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Viktor and Beth York. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Very good.
Yeah, good day.
Before we dive into the subjects of this week, there's something that I've been burning to ask. Ever since Saturday, Beth. Ever since Saturday, I have been sitting here going, I can't wait to ask if Beth really did block on Saturday. So Beth, the question is, at Laverick, Sebastian Kuhn, and yet I can already see your face. You better be watching the video, guys. Did you block them?
So I don't know about Ed. I definitely know that at the finish of Lakeview Bend, we had in the last lap 3 riders on the front. There was a 2-person attack that I didn't follow, and so that was, I think, the block that you called out. That was me not following, and I did try to get in Sebastian's way so that he couldn't follow it. So I say that would be one instance of it. He did get by me, and then I had to close the gap to him. So I'm trying to close the gap to him. He didn't want me to get around him either. I managed to surprise sprint attack, use his wheel as a lead out and come around him. And then just like we've seen in Dashed Against the Rocks with Timothy versus Q, where at the finish line, you're duking out for position to protect your position across the line. That is what happened. So in there, that was the racing, and it was so much fun. But he's right. When you have 3 teammates that you've been drafting, you're vulnerable. You're vulnerable. You don't have any teammates, and particularly if 2 people go off the front and one doesn't follow, I can understand that is sort of his feeling was like, dang it. But he didn't have a lot of chances there with 3 of us teammates. So good. That was a good omnium, though. That was my first team World Cup, so I had a good time.
I had to ask, though, because Sebastian Kuhn in the interview afterwards was like, 100 blocks from velocity. I have no chance here when they block me like this. And then afterwards, like, Ed was also like, I got blocked by velocity. This is weird. But like, all's fair. Like, blocking is part of the game. You guys mastered Lake Bend. But it was just so funny because last week, Beth, you were like, I've got this back pain. It's like Casey Shum put a steak knife in there.
Why? Different point. Because yes, that was a block in a solo cup racing using a team tactic. So absolutely, I think that there were instances. So that the Casey blocking me in Lakeview Circuit that I was referring to in last week's podcast was in a solo cup where he blocked me and prevented me. You could say he didn't follow his team, but it was solo cup racing. So that tactic would have been more appropriate in a team, but not in solo cup racing. So there's a distinction there. And particularly on World Cup racing, I don't know what happened to Ed, but with Uncrashable with the team dynamics, there was a time that Ryan was on the front, he pulled out, and then there was a long line of peloton right behind me. And there was no way he was going to get out of the draft. No one was going to let him in. So I let him in, right? So I that is like what I can do. Just like if you're outside on the road and you're like, okay, man, go ahead. Nope, you're good. Get in. Or you can just be a total like, nope, so, but it was my teammate in a team race. I'm going to like open up a door for him, let him slide in, especially after he just did a massive pull. So there were times that happened too, where I was opening the door to trade a pull on the front, which is something that, I definitely practice in Rise and Rip is trading those pulls and figuring out how to make room for the lane, getting the most drafting ability. So what happens behind me, I really don't know. But there was nothing like, there was no block it, rocket that I have criticized, where you slam on the brakes just to hose the people behind you. So, there was none of that shenanigans. I think clean team tactics within the dynamics of the day, I think. But yesterday in the solo cup, Sebastian was on Rocky Mountain, was blocking the hell out of me. And he was like, rah, 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 rah. And I was like laughing. And I was like, I know, Sebastian, this is, protect your lane, do what you got to do. It was so fun.
In his defense, you and Ryan absolutely smacked the door on Sebastian. Sebastian came up on the outside. He was attacking. And then there's Ryan, who admitted on CVRcade Riders that he fully intended to block, slammed the door on Seb.
Which one was that? On what one was that?
Rocky Mountains.
Rocky Mountains, yeah.
Rocky Mountain. Oh, in the lane change, in the one corner to the other corner.
The lane change. I'm going to start calling blocks on that on the stream. Oh, here comes Ryan with the lane change on Casey Shum. Brilliant. This is Vic. Like,
well, the block it rocket, the block that's not even talking about. That's just sort of the brake check maneuver. But yeah, I think that like there's definitely times too where people do the if Ryan said that was intentional, that was intentional. I was following his wheel. The reason though, like when you say like, oh, it could have been, there's definitely gray area where people do it by mistake. It's like we have Allison on there apologizing to Niels and stuff like that, and it's like, well, like this isn't a courtesy contest, it's a race, right? And, like we're trying to win, right? And, you're not trying to be a dirty player, you're just trying to use the tactics and the gameplay. And I think we're starting to know what the difference is across the line and sort of what the norms and standards are going to be and what feels not good. So.
But the blocks are not bad. Like, I love the blocks. I think the blocks have a great plot. And we continuously discuss this, which is hilarious. But I think I think what the difference is, like, yeah, Vic, like 5 years from now, we're still going to be talking about that time we blocked. But I think the difference is owning up to it and admitting to it makes it feel right. But if you try and brush it away as a lane change, I'm like, get out of here. Like, whatever, Beth, you blocked Seb, Casey blocked you, the life goes on. But what I can't stand, where someone goes, I didn't mean to do that, and then they go, yeah, I did. Like, I don't know. It's funny. Vic, where do you stand?
I don't really know. I think like blocking happens. I mean, if you're going to admit or not admit to it, I think like the race has already happened, and in the moment you're going to be angry. We saw, as you said, like Seb, Casey, like whatever, they've been angry in the past of like blocking. I don't blame them. Like, you're on the limit. Maybe you've done an attack and then someone just slams the door on you. You're like, all the momentum. No, it's gone. And I just think people move on, and blocking will forever be in the game until a massive gameplay thing changes. So it will still be there for us to discuss, of course.
It gives us controversy every week to bring up and discuss, because there's always somebody who blocked somebody who didn't mean to it, but they meant to anyway. Saturday.
But the evolution, we keep talking about the evolution of gameplay, right? And so way back in the early days, I think that like what we would see is someone would let the rider get up the front, and then three teammates would stay back and just like disrupt like all of the chase players, right? And that was sort of like, the initial like cycling hub maneuver. Then people copied that and said, no, we're not right. That's not the way to do it. And then, then you say, okay, well, we're all going to go up together and we're going to be positive racing, and we're going to just try to go and not brake check. And then blocks are going to happen in that scenario too. So I think that it's just interesting to watch the evolution too of these tactics. And this is our fourth week racing World Cup as like a true team with the points and stuff like that. So I still think we're going to see even more evolution in the next, 3 or 4 weeks. And the play on, let's talk about the play on Sci-Fi R for a second, right? Like Sci-Fi R, the day before in Rise and Rip, we were practicing tractor beam. That was one of the things I put in Rise and Rip, was like, okay. And that's what I'm kind of making Rise and Rip be like this racecraft kind of practice, is sort of like, now that these are being announced earlier, I'm trying to put the same dynamics into that, and then just kind of use each other to say like, how does that work? Is this a good place to use it? And so I had done a lot of it. And then of course we see like, Cycling Hub do the 1-2 punch out of the thing. And as soon as that happened, I was like, because we had talked about doing the like, go to the outside lane, do the tractor beam from the start, and then they did it, and we're like, oh no, that's the way you do it. So that was like a really cool thing to see how tractor beam was used, because we hadn't seen that in the team racing. So that was kind of cool too.
What was more cool, the coolest about tractor beam was
coolier.
There you go. Way with worth, everybody. Words, Beth York. The fact that tractor beam takes the closest rider in the same lane behind you, as Casey Shum found out during his testing, something I didn't know, and I don't think many other knew. Did you know, Beth?
Which is what? Like,
so tractor beam as a super, you would assume you have to be like on the wheel of the rider in front of you for it to activate, right? But that's not the case. That is not the case. So if this is Casey and Quentin is a lap back, whatever, as long as Quinten is the next rider in between him and Casey in the same lane, you get the effect from the tractor beam.
Oh,
so in the
I thought you had a proximity thing. Okay, I thought it was a
so
proximity
too.
thing.
I thought so too. But that Casey and Quinten in their testing, and this is why you play test. Quinten and Casey, they said they rode like 40 laps of Cypher R loop with tractor beams, twisting and turning and practicing. It pays off. Now, albeit they didn't win the Omnium because Carl Axel Sander had some Swedish meatballs in the morning or something. But like, that was so clever. In my commentary, I'm like, Casey, what are you doing? You lost Chris. Chris was on your wheel. You lost your cargo. Yeah. But what they did do was they had Chris, who was second in the wheel, Casey yelled at Chris. He's like, Chris, move 2 lanes over. And when he moved over, guess who's the next in line? That was Quinten, 10 seconds down on the road. And as Casey sprints again, Quinten gets dragged with him. So Quinten got like a 20 to not 30-second rest on Cypher R loop.
Oh, so I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that you could be. Wow.
It's pretty clever.
Wow. Yeah.
It's definitely.
Yeah. I mean, well. Oof. Go ahead.
Sign of testing. No, it's fine. I was just going to say, like, the length people go to find out the best tactics. But it's interesting now because now we kind of said their little secret of tractor beams. So it'll be interesting next time tractor beam is in the World Cup. See if other teams pick up on that, and maybe we'll see a different outcome. Because I think Cypher R loop was kind of, you definitely saw like Cycling Hub were just on they knew what they were doing, and those 2 laps just flew by because of the tractor beam. So that was quite interesting. I really liked that one, and I hope tractor beam comes back for the Team World Cup.
One thing
we saw tractor beam. Sorry, go ahead. We saw tractor beam in the original Captain's League when we were the first testing, and I remember watching Tim and Monica just flawlessly do the lead out. So and that particular maneuver was, sort of like, oh, that's how you do it. Tim did this like massive sprint, had her in tow. She spun up just in time for that expired. He moved over and boom, she was just launched through. So so there's also that place to use it, which was sort of like in the back of my mind when I was practicing it. The trading off the front where like, okay, I do mine and then you do yours. We practiced that a little bit too, but with that lap, I was like, does that corner come too soon? Are we going to have to slow down too much? But yeah, I could have done one more lap on that because you're right. It did feel a little short, but
yeah, it only fell short because Cycling Hub sprinted like madmen. They sacrificed Chris and Nils, gave everything out of the gun, and for 30 to 40 seconds, they were at like 1,000 equalized watts, like the entire team together, thanks to the tractor beam. So it felt short, but only because they absolutely hammered it. Now, are we going to see
Carl
the same?
Axel and myself came in 3rd and 4th, so we were able to protect some points there too. So we weren't too far behind, but it allowed us to close that gap up too, right? So there was also an opportunity that it gave you, like I remember seeing a 17-second gap. So that was also something like that if we had got alarmed about it more than we did, we would have made mistakes crashing and lost the opportunity to come back to a position. So I think there's also a state of mind of being relaxed in that when in the face of greatness and knowing that you're being outplayed for a minute to actually use what you've got and come back. So that was our captain calling out those plays. So
but you won. Velocity won this week, official. Walked away with it, scoring 100 points more than second place. But you guys played it well. Lake Bend really was the differentiator. You guys raced that Cypher R loop and you finished it off strong in the end. But as strong as that performance was, it is a slight outlier because Carl Axel Sanders scored over 50% of the team's points. Beth, I don't think he can do that again next Saturday. I don't think he can do that consistently going forward. So what did you guys learn? Because you can't, the captain is important, but Carl can't score 300 points every week, and if he can, I bow.
Well, it's sort of like bowing to Quinten, right? He can't possibly win 3 Omniums every week, but he does. So, last week he did. Last week he did, So it's sort of like it can't happen every week. I get that. So, I mean, I think that that again, what all teams need to do is, you have 6 riders, right? You have to have a strong and deep roster. You can't just have one, outstanding performer. It has to be a team. And I don't know if that means that, that other people have to be captains or other people, because you had like last week we talked about, or the week before we talked about how important keeping that captain up the front is because of the points, because the week before Quinton had captured most of those points. So it's an advanced math equation. It is. And it is. And it's also, right, because you don't know what the other teams are going to do and how they're going to place and what they're going to do. But also I think that whatever the math is, the stronger your roster of 6 people is, the deeper you can go with people who can finish at the front, the better your team's going to do. You can't just have one strong rider and expect your team to do well. You have to have good tactics, and you have to have a deep roster.
Vic.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Go on.
Are you going to ask me a question now?
No, you can. You might have just answered the question I'm about to ask. So it's fine.
Maybe.
Mind reading.
Because Jesper, you were like, Carl needs an incredible performance for Velocity to win, but that's incorrect, because they won with over 100 points, as we stated before. They don't need to win that badly, like that big. So Carl, in reality, only needs to score probably the same amount as like Quinton scored for Cycling Hub. So I actually think if just Velocity keep the consistency with the other riders and Carl just does like an okay performance, I still think they're able to win, because like that dominant of a performance, not even Cycling Hub has done in the World Cup. So that's just one thing I wanted to add, that I feel like Velocity, if they keep this going, I feel like they could win the next few weeks coming up.
See, I agree, and I had the sensation, I think we spoke about it before Saturday stream, Vic, that we felt like Velocity was, like, Beth, we looked at your team, and this is not to, like, completely, like, just talk it up, but we thought you guys had a strong team, you were the favorites, you came in there, but, like, we can't get caught up in the one-time performances, because if you go back to week 1 and 2, you just assume Cycling Hub run away with it. Quinton has been dominant, Casey has been up there, but you get fatigued. Carl must be getting slightly fatigued now. So now you substitute in maybe a new captain. And if you look around, Seth wasn't the captain for Cognition. And I think for them, back to the drawing board, Luis had an off day and he knew it too. Does Modi come back? Do you make Seth the captain? Team Hive had an off day. Timothy could have possibly gotten within 50 points. Like, Team Hive could have gotten within 50 points. Cognition could have gotten within 75 points. Cycling Hub. So it's an exciting time, but we're only scratching the surface, because you guys were dominant. With all due respect, I don't think that's going to be the case on Saturday. I think it's going to change.
There's Cognition who's going to come, like, if I don't know if Allison is going to come back in the mix. I hope she does. I know that she was training for some other races that may have been sort of that have been canceled as a result of what's going on in the larger world, outside of our little CVRcade bubble. But so maybe she'll come back in, because she's a very strong rider, but also very strategic. So if you put that back in, and Modi, even if he's not 100%, I think he's a little bit under the weather. Even if he's not 100%, having his voice even in the team cars, the DS, to be calling those things out. There's a lot of brain power on each of these teams and a lot of diversity of skills. So so I really do feel like every team race is like any given Sunday. It's just any given Saturday, right? It's sort of like, and if we really zoom way out, like, the level of racing is crazy, and the engagement level of these riders and what they know, it's anyone's game on Saturday. I don't think anyone feels so cocky that they're going to go in and be like, yeah, we're going to dominate. It's sort of like everyone goes in there going, okay, so, I think so-and-so is going to be doing this and someone's going to be doing this. And so, like, this is how we might respond to that. I mean, you can't go in in with anything other than fear of what the other teams are going to bring.
Looking at the races, because the races kind of dictate who the favorites are. And this week's racing, it was really power based. It was really physical. And that's why Velocity, like Carl, Beth, Ryan, you guys can suffer.
the crash. Beth York goes crashing down. That's why.
It's funny. Nigel was up there as well. But looking at next week, so I know we're talking about the World Cup, but that's because, like, honestly, guys, you get
Main thing.
You get 35 people on the start line. You get 60. I think you got 100 viewers last week. This is what people build their weeks towards. This is what they come in, they strategize, the amount of test events that get set up. So next week, and you guys can trust me because I'm looking at the races here. You don't need to double check me this time.
Oh, good. I don't have my glasses on, and I don't think I can.
Kayla's mountain track is up first. It's without quantum shift as an ability. Then you have 5 laps of Saturn. Then you have got 3 laps of New York with Uncrashable as an ability. And we finish on sudden lane change with the highest scoring multiplier of 2.5. Personally, looking at this Omnium, Cycling Hub is going to be the favorite purely based on the technicality of the Omnium. What do you think, Vic?
Probably. I'm just trying to think about the Omnium in my head and like kind of putting it in and seeing like, oh, how will it play out? Yeah, Saturn is a good one. I think that will be definitely one of the deciders. Cityscape, I think, will be close. Interesting now that Cityscape is coming one race later than usual, because usually like the Uncrashable one is second. Not anymore. Exactly. So what I can see there is kind of what you talked about yesterday in the Solo Cup, especially for Rocky Mountains, is with that we saw kind of like the lesser riders come forward. So maybe we will see the captains struggle a tiny bit because they put like a massive effort on Saturn, and then we might see the secondary riders come through on Cityscape in like a breakaway or something like that. So I think it will be close as always in the World Cup. But yeah, looking at it, I think I can't really remember who's been. Sebastian has been really good on sudden lane change in the past. So I think if Cognition picks him as the captain, I feel like they will be close. But honestly, in my opinion, I think Velocity, Cycling Hub, and Cognition, like it's anyone's to win, really. I think it will dictate, depending on the Saturn result. I think really who wins that is probably going to win the whole thing. So that's my prediction.
Before we go to Beth, what's kind of interesting and what's kind of like fun is like you mentioned 3 teams. There are 2 other teams. Havoc has been getting better. I love Sushi Salmon. John Pyle, maybe one of my favorite riders right now in the community. You've got Hive. Timothy is the captain, who's been just beasting. Ben has been great. Kayla's getting up there too. Jennifer seems to be, I know she was sick a tiny bit. They're so close. So, like Hive, I would not count out. Anytime you see a technical Omnium, Timothy Tamont goes, this is my time to shine, everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah. Beth, before we go to you, this is a weird sensation, but I honestly think, I reckon Velocity's best chance is if you're the captain this week. That's just a sensation I have.
No pressure.
Just saying.
No
just
pressure.
Saying.
Yeah. Well, you know, I when I look at the Omnium, one of the things about Saturn is that we've raced that so many times. And so with, you know, the Solo Cup on Water Village, for example, you know, some new maps have come into play. And I think that it's really easy for people to go, oh, Saturn, it's like the loop-de-loo and the one chicane at the end. And, you know, I'm going to focus on sudden lane change with these weird power-ups, right? Like, you know, of course, but you have to respect all the maps. You have to, you know, really think about it. So whether I'm the captain or, you know, whoever is the captain, you know, the confidence level going in, it can't just be, it has to be across the Omnium, and it has to be, I don't know. I really like Hive because I feel like Hive's had some bad luck, which happens to all of us, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like, you know, Timothy's done a really good job of putting together a roster and really trying to, like, I think, accelerate the gameplay, because Ben is super cerebral and super strong. You know, he knows how to design courses and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm less thinking about our team captains and I'm thinking about the other team captains, because, like I said, any given Sunday, I mean, any given Saturday.
Is that smart? I mean, it obviously worked for you guys this weekend, but like, you can't
affect
what's
smart.
What you say you're thinking about the other team's captains. You can't really influence what the other teams are going to do. The only thing you can influence is your own squad.
Yeah, but I mean, it does give you a sense of like, well, no, I'm just thinking about when I look out, what other people choose for captains has no bearing on what I choose for captains. But I'm going back to the like, who do I like across the omnium,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and
Makes
not
sense.
counting Hive out, you know, or even Havoc. And you were saying, John, like yesterday on Rocky Mountain, John and I were trading polls. I hope he felt that way. At one point, I was like, if I pulled over, I'm like, come on, man, like just like pull through, please pull through. And I wasn't trying to be a jerk of like not giving my wheel. I was like, no, please go through. I can't follow this. But yeah, no, I think that all the teams have a chance. For I don't know if I should be the captain ever, to be honest with you. You know,
I
I
don't
would
know,
say
but
that. Well,
it's up to you.
we have other stronger choices, but one day I will be. I will be. I'm sure, but I'm not sure that I'm always going to be the best
Well,
choice.
I think we should all do a prediction. I think it could be fun. I think it could be
Sure.
fun here. Vic, I'll let you go first. Who
I hate
wins
predictions
on
because I'm always
Saturday?
wrong.
I'm gonna be completely right because I have it all in my mind right now. So I see, I see the start being kind of normal. Not really sure who's leading by that point. Now Saturn is an interesting one because Ben has been really good in the past. Timothy, not really. I don't think that's his favorite map, but he's okay. Hive might be. I did not even mention him before, but I feel like now thinking about it, there's a few maps there that they really like. Will definitely be dependent on Kayla and Jennifer's performance as well. But yeah, I just see like, oh man, because Quentin is so good on Sun Lane Chase as well, and that's like the pinnacle. That's basically where it's going to be decided unless a team does a really really good performance on any of the other maps. So I think, so let's see, Velocity won last week, so based on those calculations, we should.
Based on the target on the backs of certain
Exactly.
individuals.
Get my calculator out here. No, I'm just saying. I think Quentin looked very tired, so I'm not. I'm going to rule out Cycling Hub if he doesn't recover really quick. But just purely based on yesterday, I'm going to take them out. Otherwise, I think I would have had them as favorites. So it's between, in my opinion, I think it's still. I'm going to say Cognition again. If they pick Sebastian as captain, I feel like they have consistent riders. Sebastian is quite good on the sudden lane change. He's won in the past. Saturn, I feel like he can deal with that sort of map. And Cityscape, that's just pure power. And we all know Seb, when he gets into the zone, he's just going to go for it, probably win that solo. So Wednesday prediction, a few days out, I'm going to say Cognition takes their second win. So that's my pick.
And Seb has been doing what Beth did last week. He's had that knife in his back. He took it out. He cleaned it off. He got out the little sharpener. He went, and he's like, who wants it? Come for it. I'm ready. I want to give this one back. And then it just passes on. Beth, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, I'm not one to bet against my own team. But I also live in the world of realism. And, I do think that everybody wants very badly to take the top step. I mean, there's a lot of pride. There's a lot of emotional energy that results from previous racing, that results in, one or two mistakes that were super expensive, that could have, made the difference in positioning. So I think everybody's coming at it with this like rah, and I'm hoping I'm obviously going to be rooting for my own team, but I'm hoping for Hive to kind of get over the hump of having a few of the Timothy had some issues yesterday in the Solo Cup, so I'm hoping that they can actually get their get their act kind of tightened together and cohesive and be up there too, because sudden lane change, Kayla's mountain bike trick, we're like talking about that like that's like an easy race without quantum shift. That's a brutal start because there's like these grades in that one that if you do lose the gap, if you do have a gap and you're not benefiting from the wheel and someone attacks on that, like, and you don't have a draft, it's like your legs feel like So I mean, that's a different dynamic to start the whole Omnium to begin with. So this is me not making a prediction for anyone. This is me saying go Velocity because those are my colors, but hoping that the whole level of gameplay, bring those knives, bring them. Let's do it.
Weak sauce, Beth. That's absolute weak sauce. That's not tolerated here.
Yeah, Jesper. Now we want your raw prediction, the most controversial ever, and everyone's going to be super angry because you're going to be completely
controversial, though. So I like what Beth is saying because let's not forget, Hive was 10 points away from beating Cognition, the weak Cognition one. Like Timothy on Dashed Against the Rocks almost came back, beat Cognition. Good shout. I think if they can just get their gears in order, if they can just, smooth
Those are the
out.
words I was trying to find. Oil, gears, I don't know. Yeah.
If they can solve it, I think it's going to be good. Now, I think the reason why Quentin looked not weaker today, it was on purpose. I think he's saving it up. Like, he has won, $310 in the solo cup? That's great for him. And he's
enough for a sandwich.
He scored enough points at the top. I think he now that he's lost, the team has lost the CVRcade World Cup 2 weeks in a row. They kind of feel like this, like they need to establish themselves because the grand finale is a few weeks away now, and you want to come into that feeling like you have the confidence because confidence is like the most valuable currency in CVRcade. If you can race Cityscape Water Village, knowing every corner, knowing you're the best, you will perform your best. So I think Quentin took Tuesday a tiny bit off. We know he's going to take Thursday off. Now, he took Tuesday a tiny bit off. He still won Zone E and came top 5, I think it was. So he will be a beast on Saturday. Casey will be a beast on Saturday. Chris Pritchard has won on Cityscape New York before. He will be again. I think he'll be the winner on that again. Controversial. There you have it, Vic, if you want a tiny bit. But I think Chris Pritchard will be the first across the line. And then it comes down to limiting your losses. Kayla is an incredibly tough map. 5 laps of it for a one-time scoring multiplier, but that one-time scoring multiplier matters. The last few weeks, excluding last week, that's been where the points have been lost. If you lose 25 points in the first race, it's pretty much over. You're out. You have to score on it, and I just think they're going to show up. Now, it's going to be the closest week ever, I think. I think Cycling Hub are going to bring their A game. I think Velocity are going to bring their A game, but I think Carl is going to be suffering. That's just a feeling I have. He's been trying new power devices. He's going to be frustrated. We've all seen his post on CVRcade Riders. The Swedish chef, I don't know. He's left it too long in the oven. It's going to be burnt when it comes out. That's why I feel there's something off there. Cognition, if they bring Sebastian as their leader, they're going to be beasting. Hive, Havoc. But in the end, sudden lane change. You're never, ever going to beat Quentin Molinez on sudden lane change. No way. And you can clip this, you can prepare it when somebody beats him on sudden lane change.
32:56 in the podcast on...
I just don't see it. Quentin is so good. There's so many supers.
You think he's going to beat Timothy on sudden lane change?
Yes. Timothy's tired.
I think Quentin is the favorite for that one for sure. But the issue is, especially Saturn and Cityscape, I do agree. Chris was probably going to pull something out of the bag, but Saturn and the beginning is going to hurt them, I think. Especially Saturn. I think that will be tough.
I don't think so. What makes you think that Cycling Hub won't be at the top on Saturn?
So just basing off Quentin did really well at the end of the Solo Cup Omniums. It's kind of he saved energy because he knew that he was feeling tired, fatigued from all the racing, and I also think he's riding outside, which probably is hurting him a tiny bit as well indoors. So I feel what he's going to do is he's going to try and calculate save energy first one, save energy second one, just roll around, and then final maybe Cityscape and lane change. He's going to really, really try and win both of them, or come
but that's assuming that's assuming he's the captain, though. I mean, Casey, to me, if I was Cycling Hub, I'd make Casey the captain.
Casey went deep on Tuesday, and he's going to go deep again on Thursday.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. Is the Derny racing. He's physical, which means I don't know. Literally, what we're guessing is how fatigued is Quentin? Because what I'm trying to say is basing just off he's looking tired right now, I'm not going to pick them. But if
You're
he's
forgetting-
feeling fresh,
You're forgetting the factor
dangerous.
that every other rider on every other team is listening to this right now going, Jesper,
Oh wait, this is
you're
being
wrong.
recorded.
Vic,
This is being recorded.
you're wrong. Beth, you're wrong. Team Havoc is going to win
We're
the
all
first
wrong.
ever Omnium.
It's
No.
okay. I don't mind being wrong.
But it's such a this is what makes like the Saturday so fun, is that anyone can win, and it really comes down to who's picked the right captain, who has brought the A game, who makes the least amount of mistakes, and in the end, like it comes down to one or two positions. That's it. Like the captain, one or two positions. Your second and third rider, one or two positions, and like 3 weeks in a row without a Cycling Hub win at the top. What's going on? Like, honestly, what's happening here? That's just how I look at it. But guys, it's been 35 minutes. I've enjoyed it a lot. I hope you guys have enjoyed it too. More casual chat. We heard Beth York's take on the lane changes. We've had some discussion here in the CVRcade World Cup. Solo Cup was great. I hope Donny Cup is going to be good tomorrow. For anybody else out there watching this, listening, this is your opportunity to either back up what we're saying, if you're Hive, Cycling Hub, or none of the teams that Beth picked, or you can go against what we're saying and prove that we are incorrect. I hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure to click the like button down below. We will not give Beth or Vic the last word here, because last week that derailed the entire podcast. So we'll end it here. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.